Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Jenny G. Cousins, and this is Soul to Soul Connections with Jenny G. Now, in order to watch these episodes, you're going to have to subscribe and hit that red button down there in the corner and make some comments and let me know what you guys like. How are you feeling with these episodes? And that's the only way you're going to get content. So you must do that. So you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Jenny Cousins. I'm out there. You can look me up. You'll find me, bottom line. So now on today's episode, I have a very special guest. And I want to welcome Deidre Norman. Thank you, Deidre, for coming on my show.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. This is really amazing and beautiful. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Of course, I had to have you. So I'm just going to give a little bit of information about Deidre, and then I'm going to ask her some questions, and you guys are going to see and understand why, of course, I had to interview her. So now Deidre is a Master Sattva Yoga teacher and medical intuitive whose mission is to guide people to align with their highest truth through personal energy evaluations, spiritual wellness courses, and the teaching of yoga and meditation. Learning to manage her energy and energy boundaries has been one of the most transformative things in her life. And because of this, one of her main passions is to share these teachings with others. She works with people through teaching yoga, intuitive readings, intuitive coaching, and online courses that empower others to tap into their own intuitive abilities and manage their energy. Now, as a medical intuitive, Deidre uses her intuitive abilities to help people understand the emotional, psychological, and spiritual energy that lies at the root of illness, disease, or life crisis. In addition to her intuitive work and yoga teachings, she also leads workshops and leads retreats around the world. Deidre has a master's in medical intuition from the Alchemy of Intuition Medicine and has completed over 1,500 hours of yoga teacher training, studying with many teachers. Her two main teachers, Akaya Miller and Anand Malhotra. So this is why I had to have Deidre on, and you guys are going to see why. So this is so exciting. This is so exciting to have you on, Deidre.
It's so exciting to be here. I love this.
Oh, of course, of course. So now one of your abilities and teachings is teaching yoga. So what type of yoga are you teaching? Because I know there's different types of yoga.
Great question. So I would say the primary thing that I really love to teach is more of the Kriya Yoga, which is in the US, a lot of times you hear it called Kundalini Yoga. And that is the main thing that I teach. I also teach just your regular Vinyasa yoga class. And, I do that in where I live right now in Jackson, Wyoming. But the main thing I do is the Himalayan Kriya Yoga, which is, like I said, also known as Himalayan Kundalini or Kundalini Yoga. And that really works with Kriya means evolutionary action. So when you do the Kriya Yoga and you work with this type of yoga, you're really raising your vibration, you're raising your consciousness, and you're kind of moving from these old set patterns to kind of a new way of being. So that's why I like it the most, because there's so much transformation and you really feel a shift even just from one class. So that's, yeah. And then I teach a lot of meditation as well.
Yeah. When did you get drawn into meditate or into yoga? Like what drew you into yoga?
I got drawn into yoga originally because I had so many injuries. And so I actually used to be pretty athletic. Like I needed to exercise all the time. And so I got so injured, especially with my knee, that I couldn't actually exercise anymore. So I was like, I guess I can still do this hot yoga. So I did the hot yoga, and then it was just this sort of ripple effect where it was like, okay, that's cool. And then I just started going to these other styles of yoga and other practices of yoga. And I just remember this one day having this fight with this boyfriend, and just being so, everything's wrong with him. This is so messed up. And I got out of yoga and I was like, I don't even remember why I was mad. Like I couldn't even comprehend the craziness that had been in my mind earlier. And so it's then that I started to realize, I'm like, oh, this practice is way deeper and way more than just the physical well-being. So, I mean, that's kind of a funny story, but those kind of stories kept going, where I'd have a stressful day at work and all of a sudden I noticed I'd go to yoga and I'd be lifting my head high again and I'd feel confident again. So the subtle effects that sort of kept happening.
Mm-hmm. So like, I mean, like for somebody that has like injuries, like even for myself, I used to run 8 miles a day once upon a time ago. And then I had an accident with my feet, and then it threw my knees out and all kinds of stuff. So sometimes I have troubles doing yoga. Like this morning, I actually did it Tommy Sadhana, right? And it was okay, except for the frog pose. I couldn't do that because of the knees and such like that, right? But if somebody did have like issues, let's say, what would, and they wanted to like, Deidre, I want to start yoga, like, what would you say to them? Like, what would you say? Like,
so when I think of the word yoga, I think of, the first learning that I had of yoga, which yoga means union and that connection with self. And so yoga is an integrated practice. So it's not just when we think, especially in the Western world, when we think of yoga, it's very much the asana practice, which is those physical poses, right? But yoga is so much more. So if I'm injured, it's like the breath work. That's why I love the Kriya. So you can do stuff seated, you can do stuff in a chair, you can do yoga nidra, where you do yoga where you're basically lying down, right? And that's all you're doing. So there's so many different practices of yoga that you don't always hear about. So literally there's something for everyone. And then I'm more of the belief of the all-encompassing practice. So it's like reading the scriptures, it's doing the meditations, doing the breath work, it's doing the physical practice, it's doing the energy, the Kriya work. So there's so many options.
yeah.
And
Because I mean, even
that, there's always something.
yeah, because even this morning I did, it was like a 20-minute, Tommy has a 20-minute one. And I did everything on there except for the frog pose. And I'm like, I just really, and I'm like, yeah, that was really good. And I have injuries, but I was fine. And I'm like, during just that one frog pose, and I'm like, okay, don't do that. And I just kind of just started moving my arms around a lot more and such like that. So,
and Tommy is the first person who I really was introduced to the Kundalini yoga. And I remember doing his side, just the spinal series. And I was like, oh, I did. Yeah, it's simple and powerful.
I didn't know that. See, that's awesome. I mean, I just love Tommy. I think he's awesome. I think he's really awesome. So now you're also connected with SF Yoga Magazine. So can you explain SF Yoga Magazine?
So SF Yoga Magazine is an online platform, and it's community, consciousness, and culture. And so we're actually, which is really cool, I have a new person who's partnering with me to really help grow. It's, like I said, an online magazine, but we want to make it a lot bigger than just the magazine. So we have a goal for 2025 to have a big event in San Francisco. And so it's based in San Francisco, but we cover events internationally. Like I'm going to the International Yoga Festival in Rishikesh in March to cover the event for SF Yoga Magazine. And we cover all sorts of different things. And, of course, you're one of the amazing people we have on there with Just Ask Jeni G, which I was just saying, so many people, we get so many people reading those over and over and over again, which I love. But we really want to connect the community. And especially now, San Francisco is growing so much in the yoga community since there was kind of, through the pandemic, there was so many shifts and changes, and now it's growing. So we really want to capture that and bring people together through the site. We want to elevate the consciousness. So we really want to make sure we have people on there and articles on there that are inspiring, that, like I said, it's like higher consciousness. So we don't, we're probably not going to put on there something like drink beer and have
Yeah.
yoga. It's
Yeah.
definitely, we want to make it a place where it's really a higher state of consciousness. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for my column. I'm just very honored to be a part of the magazine. Very honored.
So yeah, so in the next few years, it's going to be growing, and we're going to be doing, like I said, we're going to be doing a lot more events in addition to just the online platform. We always go to events, we have a presence at those, but we're going to be growing it quite a bit. So
it's a really good magazine. Like, we're going to put a link below anyways. And I want you guys to check out, Deidre's magazine, because like it drew me in right away when I saw it like a few years ago. And I'm like, I love the energy with it. So you guys better check it out. You have to check it out. So now you're also a medical intuitive. So can you explain what that is? Like, sort of your.
So, a medical intuitive. So I have basically I have a degree in medical intuition. And so what that, I mean, it's a huge all-encompassing degree, but the idea is that we are made up, energetically, just as the dynamism, I guess, of the energy makeup as just as much, if not more, than the physical body. And so a lot of times it's easy to focus on the physical body. So with medical intuition, you kind of go a little bit deeper. You go kind of that level deeper. So for example, if someone comes to me, I think the best way is just to show an example of like, I went to the doctor and I found out I have some sugar issues. So then what we'll do is we'll go in and look at the energetic component of that. So for example, the woman I was working with, who I'm explaining right now, we went in and we found out that, oh, this is something with your liver, and this is a lot of anger towards your father. And so we did a lot of work with trying to heal that relationship, releasing some of those old toxic energies that were held in the system, repatterning, and she went back in a few months later and her sugar levels were back to normal. So it's kind of working with the energy level instead of the physical level, and going in and seeing different blocks in the energy system, and then seeing how those kind of ripple out.
Yeah. And that's amazing, because I mean, like any, like Western doctor realistically can give somebody a pill, let's say, or whatever. But, like the work that you're doing, it goes to the root of the problem, and it can really, truly help that person. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was because of my father, let's say, and such like that. And that's really amazing. I love the healing modalities with that. It's life-changing for some people. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I get a lot of people with different autoimmune disorders and all of these things where they go to the doctor and like, I can't figure out what's wrong, right? So
Wow. Like when you're doing yoga, do you do yoga like a few times a day, or are you doing yoga like once a day, or?
I would love to be doing it a few times a day, but unfortunately, it still doesn't quite allow for it. Like I said, I do more of an integrated practice. So my priority is meditation always before anything else. And then I will definitely do a yoga practice throughout the day once. It's very, it's a beautiful day when I can do it more than that.
Yeah. When I started doing yoga, my yoga teacher, because I thought I actually have to go to class, because if I don't, I'm not going to do it. She was 70 and she was teaching 3 classes a day, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, I'm having troubles just making it through the one class, and you're doing that 3 times a day. Like, wow.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. But you do so many other things as well. And I mean, like, even your meditation that you just mentioned, do you meditate every day? Is there a certain type of like a meditation that you do? Because I know there's like different types of meditations.
So the daily practice that I love still comes from what I learned from Anand. It's the Sattva Yoga meditation practice. So I usually also do, so I start with a japa meditation practice, and then I go into the Sattva Yoga meditation practice. And that is a breath work, a short kriya, and a meditation. And so that's usually my primary daily meditation. And then I do japa sometimes 3 times a day. So I do the japa practice every day, but sometimes more. That's a practice that I add in more regularly.
So if somebody said, what's the benefits of meditation? What would you tell them?
I think the biggest benefit of meditation is it just brings us into that state of stillness and that place of calm, so that we move through our day more steadily. So for me, it doesn't mean that, oh, I meditated and it was completely in stillness and silence and I didn't have a single thought. I don't mean it like that. I just mean it brings us into that centered place. And so we start to realize how much, well, I should speak for myself. I started to realize how much I was reacting in the world versus showing up and as Anand says, correct right action, right? Like just spontaneous right action that happened. What I noticed was that was starting to happen more and more, where before that I was reacting, right? And so I feel like having that steady center just to start your day is so powerful. I also try and work in a lot of work for my personal self, the energy medicine tools, where strengthening my aura, clearing my energy field, and starting my day grounded and rooted to the earth with that energy boundary, so that as I move, I'm not taking on other people's energy throughout the day, so that I really understand what's mine and what's other people's. So I think those are kind of the 2 main things of just having that centered place and then being able to walk through without taking on all this energy that's not mine.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's what the setting the energy boundaries and such like that. I mean, I have to do it every day. Like every day, I have to set boundaries. I get so many messages a day, and even where I live, I leave my place to take my dog out, and it's like people just swarm around me, and I'm like, I just need my space right now just to go take my dog out. So yeah, that's so important, so important,
Yeah, I
so
notice I
important.
do sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, just be like, okay, set my boundaries.
Absolutely. So now,
Yeah.
obviously, India, of course. I mean, India is my love in my heart always, right?
Yes.
Always, always. And how many times have you been there? Like, how many times have you been to India, do you
You
think?
know, I was just thinking about that. It's either 6 or 7 times.
Wow. Wow.
I think this year will be my 8th trip. I need to double check that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Abundance, number 8.
I know, right? I love India.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Who knows? I mean, I say I'm going every year, right? But it's like divine timing, divine timing. Because when I'm going there for a little while.
I mean, that's what I always recommend, because people are like, oh, your pilgrimage is 2 weeks, it's a little too long. And I'm like, yeah, but you really need, I feel like you need time and space in India. And if you just go for a week or you just go for 10 days, I just think you need a little bit more time than you would anywhere else in the world. It's just to dive in, to really be there.
2 weeks. I mean, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like, for those of you who haven't gone, even myself who hasn't gone. I mean, when I go, I'm planning at least 6 weeks that I'm going to be gone, if not like 6 months, like that. So,
Mhm.
so with your retreats, now everybody listen to this. For anybody who wants to go to India, and anybody who wants to go to India and get involved with Deidre and like the yoga and everything, tell us about your retreat that's going to be coming up, and when it's going to be roughly. Like, when are you know, planning on it realistically around?
So I've got 2 coming up in 2024. I have one October 20th to November 4th, and then the second one will most likely be over the Thanksgiving holiday for the people in the US, that last sort of week in November. And I call them pilgrimages because a retreat might give it the wrong impression, because it's not really like a retreat where you're going to lay by the pool and just relax. Like it's a pilgrimage. It's a deep dive into yourself. It's an inward journey so much more than everything else when you go to India. And I always say, no matter what you need to heal or work on, it comes up full force in India, whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
So it's really, that's why I think the space and time is needed there. So you can be like, okay, I can work through this, I can heal this. But I just feel India is a place for such deep growth, transformation, and healing. And the one I have coming up October 20th through November 4th of 2024 is we start in Varanasi, and then we go up to Rishikesh for 2 days. And Rishikesh is sort of the foothills of the Himalayas. And then we go up to Badrinath, which is high up in the Himalayas. And then we come back down just north of Rishikesh, where we spend 5 days at this beautiful retreat center. And Varanasi is known as the city of the dead. It's just so powerful. It's the oldest living city. So you're in this beautiful place where people have been praying, meditating, doing pilgrimages for thousands of years. So each temple is so powerful. You know, you walk in each temple and you feel the shift immediately. Like you just, you know, we take river trips down the Ganga, and it's just, the energy is so powerful. And then you go up north to the mountains, and it's just this whole other powerful energy that is so very different from Varanasi, but it's powerful in a much different way. There we can actually like swim in the Ganga because it's right coming from the mountains. And the temples there also are thousands of years old that we go visit. And yeah, and then this trip, which is really cool, one of the places we do visit in Badrinath is we go to an astral ashram. So all these ancient yogis are in this astral ashram that we go up, we hike up. It's about 10 miles round trip, and we just sit and meditate. And you can choose to meditate in a cave or on rocks, and we're just in the presence of these. Yeah, it's really, really powerful. And I don't mention the astral ashram on my site because but here on your show, I can people understand it a little bit
get out there.
But it's a pretty transformative journey. You don't leave, you don't come back the same, as you don't even come back, you finish a much different person.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, when I go, I'm going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
Right. And just really absorb all of its sacred essence, just completely and utterly. There's so much that I want to see and do. And who knows, maybe I'll join your retreat next year, because whenever I'm planning on going, it's actually around that time, and
it would be so amazing to have you. And so that one from October to November 4th, we're also having this wonderful woman, Jo from New Zealand, who's going to be doing she's going to be assisting and helping in all the ways. She's been on it before, but she's going to be leading a couple family constellation sessions as well, which will be really, because one of the temples we go to is all about our ancestors. So that will be a really cool kind of addition that I haven't done before, but she came on the last one. So this time we're bringing her in. Wow. And then the other one I'm doing at the end of November, I'm doing it with my good friend, Rachel Hunter, and we are doing a Kali tour. So we're starting in Calcutta, and then we're going up to the Rishikesh area again. And then we're going to go up to this place called Kalimath, where there's a Kali temple. Yes. So we're visiting all these really old Kali temples. And then we'll go back to Hardwar, not back, but we'll go to Hardwar, which is near Rishikesh, to another Kali temple. And so the whole tour is honoring and invoking the goddess Kali, who is the goddess of fearless love. And that's going to be a pretty powerful experience.
That's life transforming. I mean, like, seriously, if anybody wants to go to India, even if somebody's by themselves, like I've never been myself, and when I go, I'll be by myself, right? I mean, it's better to go with a group. It's better. I mean, you do what your own thing, right? But I mean, there's Deidre right there, you guys. You have that right there, yeah. And we're going to have Deidre's information anyways. You guys go and sign up, because that's going to sell out. That is going to sell out. And you're going to find that it's going to be harder and harder and harder to join, because she's going to book up really quickly, you guys. So really pay attention to Deidre and what she's doing now, right? So in India, if like of all places you've been to in India, right? Is there one place or city or area or that you're like, this is one of my favorites? I'm sure there's 100 million places, but of all places,
I
where
don't
for
think
you?
I don't think there's anywhere in India I don't like. I
Yeah.
love everything, but it is so challenging for me once I get to Varanasi to leave Varanasi. Varanasi to me is it is my favorite place, and I don't know what it is about it. You know, you go up to the mountains and it's so beautiful and amazing, but there's something about, I think it's just that the spirituality and the amount of pilgrims that come to Varanasi and for thousands of years. So the energy of it is so powerful. And, you know, you have the burning ghats where the people get burned. And so it is, I think
Mm.
Varanasi is definitely, and, you know, I went back this past year and it was definitely way different, you know, after, I think everything after these last few years, things have shifted. And so there's definitely way more tourists coming, and I still loved it. You know, it was still, it's
Wow.
intense, but
Wow.
it's definitely
Powerful, powerful and sacred.
powerful.
Yeah, life-changing. I would say life-changing. I'm kind
Life
of
changing.
excited to go and see what as I come out, what's,
I
right?
mean, yeah. And yeah, like, you know, it's like people even go and they're not even, they don't have an intention to change or shift or do anything different in their life. And they come back and their whole life is different sometimes. You know, it's up levels. It's really fascinating.
Oh. So if you could change one thing in this entire world, what would it be and why?
Um, if I were to change one thing, I probably, you know, just hearing that question is really interesting because I probably wouldn't change anything in the bigger picture of things because I feel like there's a purpose for everything. I just don't always know what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like life is working in its divine, perfect way. I don't always like it. But if I did have some control and I was allowed to change things with the betterment of the whole, it would be the welfare of the animals, and especially for whatever reason, the dogs really like call to me. So it would be to really shift the way we treat animals worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah, because
And I
if
know
you,
there's deeper parts, you know, of other and all of that, but that's the one thing I think that really
yeah,
pulls
touch,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you spell dog backwards, it's God,
Right.
you know?
And yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, like dogs bring unconditional love. There's reasons why we meet them, reasons why they come into our life. And
yeah.
wow. Because whenever you go to India, I love, I mean, I always look at your photos. Right? Oh, you do photography too, by the way. I've seen, so you guys, so I love your photos.
Thank
So
you.
where could people also find your photos? I forgot about that until now, actually.
Well, so I have on Instagram, you can find me deidrenorman.com. And I also have, I think, Deidre Norman Photography. I haven't really been doing a lot with the photography. I used to do so much with photography and I haven't recently, but on my intention list or what I really would love to start doing more of is getting more into taking photos and really, or even the photos I've taken, even just sharing them, doing something,
Yeah.
because there's so many. And I don't know if you've been to anyone's been to India, but it's just so beautiful, and the colors and the animals and the people, and it's a
Yes. Have
beautiful.
have you been there during Holi?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was there once, many, many years ago, and I was at the Paramath Nikatan
Mm,
ashram for Holi, and it was just mind blowing. Yeah, it's
wow.
really, really beautiful.
Wow. I'm getting like goosebumps just hearing about your retreat and such like that. So
I would
so
love for you to join.
well, you never know. You never know, right? Like Yeah, you never know. I just surrender everything. And I mean, if next year is my year to go, I'm going because it's better because I've never been and I would be going on my own. And it's like that comforting feeling that going somewhere and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm actually going to be meeting up with someone and being a part of, the group and such like that. It's more comforting than somebody just all of a sudden going on, like tour by themselves. Right. I mean, I normal travel by myself anyways, but
India is so,
yeah.
so different though. And I feel like what I noticed a lot of people do is they come on the pilgrimage and then they schedule 2 or 3 weeks after, or even a few days after. But the first bit is with the group because it is intimidating because it's so different than anything you've ever done for most people when you go to India. And so having that starter is really, really nice. For anyone that's going this year, I am teaching at the Sattva Summit in November. And it's November 5th through the 13th, I believe. But that's sattvasummit.com. And that's Anand puts that on with his team of people. And that's pretty awesome because you get a bunch of different teachers. People come, it's like a boutique conscious gathering is what they call it. But it's teachers from all over the world coming. And it's a really great introduction to India and to the the integrated yogic practices from the Himalayas.
Yeah, because it has that loving, welcoming energy there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So what is your definition of God?
When I think of God, I think of the word universal consciousness comes to me, but I think of God as I love, I think it comes from I remember Sattvi at the ashram said it, and then Yogi Bhajan has a quote: if you don't see God everywhere, you don't see God at all. So it's like I feel like it's this all pervading energy, and it's why when you're like change anything, I'm like, it's not my place to change anything, right? There's a bigger universal consciousness at work, and so that's sort of how I think of it. More of this sort of this divine consciousness that is so expansive that there's no way I can even comprehend it in this physical being in this lifetime, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But something that is always there to support us, to be there, but for everyone when we call on it, and even when we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could meet one person who has either passed on or somebody that's still alive, who would it be and why? Why them?
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I'm spacing her name, but who I would definitely meet would be the woman who did Born Free. Why am I forgetting her name?
Oh, yes,
You know what
yes,
I'm talking about?
yes, yes, I do actually.
I don't know why I'm spacing her name right now, but anyway, that is 100% who I would meet. Not in the yoga world at all, but what she did was she took a little lion cub and raised it, and then brought it out to the wilds and taught it how to live in the wild. Elsa. And I don't know why I'm spacing her name right now, but I've read all of her books. I've read all of her husband's books. And so that is definitely who I would meet. For whatever reason, she is just so inspiring to me because I think she did something that no one else had done. She didn't care what anyone else thought. And she really put the interest of this lion cub before anything else. And she shifted the way the world, and now there's Born Free places all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that movie. I love that movie because you're very connected with Africa.
Yeah.
Are you going to
I
be doing
love
anything out
Africa
there?
so much. What's that?
Are you going to be doing anything out there?
I have something on the radar for probably 2025.
Yeah.
I'm sort of debating because I've spent a lot of time in Uganda of doing something there, but we'll see. I love, there's so many amazing places and I have a great connections there. And I feel like I could really I've done stuff there with just me, where you can really get out into nature with the wildlife and do the yoga practices that aren't so crowded with all the tourists. So you have some
Yeah.
space there. And then, you know, of course, meeting the gorillas. And it's just, to me, it's a really, really special place. So that's kind of on the radar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Africa so much. Besides India, it's, yeah.
Yeah. So this is why you guys have to follow Deidre. Like, you don't, what's up with that? Not just saying, but you know, like, you got to keep an eye on her. I'm sure you're going to be mentioning them that in the magazine as well, in SF Yoga magazine, and your
Yep.
events. So if somebody wanted to like get a hold of you or book like a reading or classes or meditations or anything, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So my website is the best, just my name, Deidre Norman. And then I'm on Instagram as Deidre Norman, Facebook as Deidre Norman Yoga. So that is the number one way, because I have my phone number, my email, and you can text, you can email, you can send me a message. And I put all of the stuff that I have going on the Instagram link tree, and then also on my site. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Like, that's so now you guys can see why I had to have Deidre. Like, you
Thank
know,
you.
of course I would. Of course I would. So, I mean, I want to thank you for coming on. Like, it's been a real pleasure, real honor, and a real pleasure to have you on.
Well, it has truly been my honor to be here. I just have the utmost respect for you and so inspired by everything that you do, and rely on your amazing advice and insight on a regular basis. So thank
Thank
you.
you. You're welcome. Now, I'm going to be doing a separate show again on Deidre, and she very well might come back, and we're going to do a live show where you can ask her whatever you want. So if you guys want to see Deidre come back live, where you can be like, oh my God, Deidre's live. Oh, you know, let me know. Write some comments down there. And I want to thank everyone for watching, and there's going to be more episodes coming up weekly. So in order to see the episodes, you've got to subscribe to my channel. We're on many different platforms. And again, I want to thank Deidre very much for coming on. And you guys have to stay tuned in. So thank you again, Deidre, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been just so amazing and such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, I'm sending all of you guys a lot of love and light, and have an amazing week. And let's really make this happen, you guys. I will talk to you all later. Namaste.
Namaste.